Hello, my name is Lola from Outriders, and this interview is part of Radar, a large database looking for local responses to the effects of COVID-19. Our guest today is Olalla Tuñas from Spain. She's Engagement and Participation Manager at Civio, a non-profit organization monitoring public authorities, and which is doing amazing work during the pandemic, answering people's concerns about everything, public regulations, lockdown, government packages. So good morning, Olalla. How are you?
Hi Lola, how are you? All fine here in Madrid.
So firstly, tell us about you guys. What is Civio and how many people work on it? Could you give us an example of your work?
So Civio is a non-profit journalism organization based in Madrid. We are focused in data-driven investigation, so investigative journalism, and access to information. The team members we are a very diverse team, and we have from journalists to data scientists, web developers, and some administrative staff. Regarding if we have a lawyer, actually we don't have a lawyer per se. So our lawyer is a member of the advisory board. But we do get a lot of help from our head of administration, who is a trained lawyer. About our work, so we run long-term investigations on different topics that have to do with public administration. So this goes from public procurement to environmental issues, access to information, power networks, access to health, for instance, with our work Medicamentalia, and all topics, actually a variety of topics that have to do with public administration. Just to give you a sense of how we work, we dig into public information, and in order to find the right information, let's say we file thousands of public information requests, and with that information we run in-depth investigations.
During the pandemic, you have created an online consulting room called Civio Responde, meaning Civio Answers, where you are answering people's concerns about many things that the regulations, maybe things that are in the law, but they are difficult to understand in your personal situation. Could you tell us an example of what do people ask and how many people write to you every day?
So the thing is that the week after the state of emergency was announced in Spain, we realized that the level of misinformation and the lack of information itself was so huge. Even if we reported on the as we have been doing in the last years on what's being said in the daily official gazette, we felt that wasn't enough. Eva, in her Twitter account, started receiving like a flood of questions regarding different topics related to health issues, but also the new measures taken by the government to palliate the situation. And that's when we kind of reacted and said, okay, let's do something simple with the tools we have available. And we create a sort of helping desk, and we call it "You Ask, Civio Answers," which is, as simple as it can be. And from the beginning, it was, let's say, very successful in the sense that we received a lot of questions from confused readers, and we also let's say reached new audiences that weren't like the typical, people who weren't the typical Civio readers in the past, which was very beneficial for us as well. The thing is that this helping desk took a lot of human resources from our team. In the beginning, we thought it would be something simple. We didn't know what we were facing, right? Like have to think about the second week of March. Like, who will guess this, that it will take it will have taken so long to go back to normal, or to the new normal. So at that moment we thought, okay, we answer these questions for a couple of weeks, let's see how it develops. And then we realized that it wasn't a couple of weeks. So at the moment we have received over 2,200 questions that we answered. It's a huge amount. So through this basic, let's say, basically the helping desk is based on a simple form that we embed in our website. We advertise it among, like, let's say, what we consider potential, let's say, people who will be in need or in more need of information, those who lost their jobs or are in need of aid, for instance. And we advertise it there, and also on social media and among our networks. And thanks to this, let's say, outreach campaign, we also reach. I think we did succeed on reaching our target audience and help people. In the end, it was the most important part of all this.
Sorry, how many people are you answering the questions? How many people in total?
So, to be honest, it's all the team involved. Like in the beginning. So the way we go is that Eva reads every day the official Gazette, and with information she gets from there, she writes an article, right? And then with that information, we answer, based on that information, we answer the questions we receive. If there is something very specific that is confusing in the law that has been announced, like, let's say, in the official Gazette, then we ask the different ministries or the official authorities on the topic. And once they clarify, we also solve the question. I give you this introduction so that you have an idea of how we go. And so working in the helping desk, we have, basically whole team. I would say, so 7 people answering questions, not full time, because the journalists are also working on their stories and stuff. I'm the one coordinating the desk, so I'm the one in charge of reading the questions as they come, classify them, assign them to people, seeing how they go, and also working together with Eva in supervising that the answers are how they should be.
I guess people have very personal questions. If I live in this region, when will I be allowed to go to the beach? Or what is the kind of questions that they usually do? What do they ask you?
Now we do have maybe more this kind of questions. Like in the last week and this week, we received a lot of questions related to mobility, to basically, can I go and see my parents in this other province? Or I adopted a cat and the cat is in this other region. Can I just go and pick him up? This kind of questions. But we also get very hard, let's say, hard questions as well, like cries for help. People who don't have the money to pay the rents, who are in desperate situations because they fear they will be evicted, or they cannot buy groceries for their children. You have to consider that many people were living on a daily basis, especially in certain parts of Madrid, and in Madrid and let's say in certain parts of Spain, or there is a huge part of the population that were living in a daily basis, and without a daily income, they cannot just face their expenses. They cannot pay their bills. So they went into social services, but of course the social services were overflooded, and many were asking us, how can we do? This is my situation. I'm a single mother. My husband lost his job, or we are still waiting for the governmental money to arrive. And what can I do? I don't have any more money to feed my children. I mean, there were like pretty hard times, especially I would say in April, where level of uncertainty was so high that people were like really not knowing what to do, and we had to also answer those questions, and sometimes telling them, I'm sorry, there is nothing for you. You have to wait until the minimum living wage is passed. That fortunately has been just passed. But yeah, it was hard. Also, we were working from home, so sometimes people will call me on my personal phone and ask questions, and it was really nice when you could have a positive answer, like, oh yeah, sure, you're a cleaner. Oh, this aid has just been passed. You can apply for it, and it's gonna be very fast. If you have positive answers, it was really easy. The problem was you had to say like, there is nothing we can do about you. Also, like many people who live in a different province than their parents, for instance, and one of his or her relatives was sick in hospital, or we also got like questions from people who asked if they could go to the funeral of one of the loved ones, and he couldn't. So we had to say, no, it is impossible. I'm so sorry. And that was hard.
Sorry, do you feel that the topics have changed in these 3 or 2 months? That maybe at the beginning people was, I don't know, afraid of going outside, and right now their worry is unemployment, or did you feel a change in the kind of concerns in this?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, in the beginning also there were a lot of questions related to the virus itself, like how contagious it is, or I have this or this illness, can I just go out on the street, or am I considered a group at risk, or this kind of questions, like, or how can I clean my home so that it's disinfected, this kind of questions. And then a lot of questions came related to labor rights and work-related issues, and then a lot of as aid was passed by the government, we had a lot of questions related to, this is my situation, can I apply for it, do you think I'm suitable for this or that subsidy? And that was mainly, I would say, April, May, it was mainly about subsidies and work-related issues. Yeah. And mobility, because many people wanted to know, like, can I go with my husband to the supermarket? Am I allowed to do this or that? Yeah.
You said that you worked together with a lawyer, because I guess some of the questions are very difficult, or even they change from one day to another. How is the process? I mean, you get the question, and sometimes it takes time to analyze the information, or do you call to someone from the government? How does it work?
So the way we go is Eva is the one reading the daily official gazette, and based on the information she gets from the official gazette, she writes an article, and with this article at hand, we answer questions. There have been a lot of let's say, questions or doubts regarding legislation in this month. So in that case, we go and ask directly the authority in charge of that particular branch, let's say, and we go straight to the source. Let's say we don't work on second-hand sources, because in that sense, we can say proudly that Eva has been reading the official gazette for 8 years, so she's kind of an expert on the topic, and we rely a lot on her actually for this. So yeah, it's basically the helping desk is also possible thanks to Eva being there.
You could give me an example of the most difficult or awkward question that you have received so far?
Yeah, I remember a guy who was asking through the whole, let's say, since the lockdown started, about his boat. So he was really concerned about his boat and like, can I go and see and watch my boat? Can I go and do this and that? And afterwards, he wasn't happy with how the port authorities treated his boat, so he wanted to claim something. So he was, I think he asked like 4 questions related to his boat. And then also people who have a lot of questions regarding their dogs, like how can they walk their pets, and there were like very funny questions, like see. And also a guy who just wrote us last week asking how close he could be to someone at the beach. So this kind of, yeah, I want to play volleyball, how I should do it. So those were funny questions, and we had a couple of laughs about the questions. But yeah, sometimes it was really heartbreaking as well. So yeah, let's say those funny questions were compensating for the harsh reality behind all this tragedy in a way. Yeah.
How is the situation in Spain right now? Because some media says that the death toll is 0 right now. There is this 4-stage plan to relax the lockdown. Could you explain us a little bit how is the situation in Madrid or in other regions in Spain?
So the de-escalation of the lockdown has been classified in, as you said, like it's mainly 3 phases, and then the last phase would be like going back to the new normal. So the country has been, let's say, divided in provinces. So local authorities apply to pass on the new phase based on certain health standards, like whether they have like they have beds in hospitals, they have first aid workers enough to let's say assist a large part of the population of this province based on the I think on the number of people living per square kilometer. So because in the end, like in terms of so for the virus to be more contagious, right? The number of people living in a small space can make a difference. So based on all these, the Ministry of Health analyzes the situation and decides whether that province is suitable to go into the new phase. And the lockdown is opening slowly as you go to the new phases. At this moment, all the territory of Spain is in either phase 1 or phase 2, that's in the mainland. Then some islands in the Canary Islands are already in phase 3. What are the difference between the phases? So basically the number of people you can meet at the same time, whether you can do sports in this or that time, whether you can go out on the street in different times. And also the fact that for instance, we couldn't go, I mean, the number of shops open, the bars open, the terraces open, the number of people who can sit in those terraces. So there are different, let's say, requirements according to the different phases. And the most important thing is that I think it's being taken very seriously, like by the authorities. And I would consider, I mean, I live in Madrid and we are still in phase 1 because I mean, in the end, the outbreak started in Madrid and we had a huge number of people infected, plus a lot of people died. So authorities are being very cautious to not let it go, let's say. So that, I mean, they don't want to have another outbreak because also health workers are exhausted from that horrible month of April. And yeah, so at the moment in Madrid, I see that people are being very cautious, wearing masks. And you know how we are in Spain, like it's not a cliche, it's reality. We are very close to each other and hug and kiss and spend a lot of time with people on the streets. So I think it's been really, in a way, revolutionary, this change, because imagine that you are changing the habits of a whole country. Even, of course, if there are cases of people who keep doing parties when they are not allowed to and stuff, I think they are a minority. Most of people are really concerned, and they are aware of the real danger in this situation. So they are being very cautious, even in parks. And yeah, that's mainly the situation in Madrid as I can see it.
You mentioned before, Olalla, that also you get many questions about personal concerns about the incomes. Suddenly, you and your husband have to lose the job. You don't have the daily basic to feed your children. Recently, it was approved by the Spanish government, this minimum living wage that in Spanish is ingreso mínimo vital. Could you explain us a little bit what does it, this kind of aid, who can request it, how does it work?
So the minimum living wage has been just passed in Spain. Actually, it was announced officially, I think, last Friday, and it was passed or announced in the daily official gazette on Sunday. So it's basically some minimum, let's say, like minimum income for everyone. So if you have no income whatsoever and you are a Spanish resident, you can apply to receive this minimum wage. How much is it? It depends on your circumstances, but I think the maximum you can get if you are just an individual with no family or relatives, it's 422 euros. So it isn't something for you to get rich or for you to live on, because no one can live in Spain with 400 euros, or you can live but really badly. So it's more like to guarantee that you are not living in poverty or you are not in hunger. That was something that was criticized by the UN recently in a trip that a UN representative made to southern Spain, and he reported that there were children living in poverty, and that was very shameful for every one of us. So I think in Parliament, I think everyone, or like most of the population, agrees that this was necessary. So yeah, and that's basically it. It's very restrictive in a way. It's not that you can you can work at the same time that you receive this minimum salary. It depends on a lot of factors. So I invite, everyone who is watching us and have any questions or want to report on the topic to let us know, to write to us in Civio, and we can answer their questions. It's nothing actually new in Europe, because Germany has a similar minimum living wage, the Civio, and in France the same. The same for the UK or even Italy. And so it's not something super new. It's just something new for Spanish, for Spaniards. So we, it was never seen here, but I think it's something necessary for let's say a post-capitalist society. So yeah.
You said it was approved on Friday. Did you get any questions so far?
Yeah, we did get not a lot of questions so far, just I think around 20-30 questions related to it, like how people who basically had questions that go from, I live with my mother-in-law, is she considered part of our family? So because in the process of application you have to justify where you live and how many members the family have. So these kind of questions, or am I considered family if I have a son with my boyfriend but we are not married? This kind of questions.
You mentioned before that also right now there are many people asking about mobility. I guess also about airports, travel restrictions. I would like to ask you in this phase 2 and phase 3 that probably July and August most of the region in Spain have. What are the difference between one phase and another? For instance, there are someone from abroad who can travel to Spain. They need to quarantine or not. Could you explain us a little bit?
Regarding, I'm gonna start with the last questions about people coming from abroad to Spain. So far the situation is that you can only come to Spain if you are working here. I mean, if you are coming for working reasons, if you are a Spanish citizen, if you are a Spanish resident, if you are like a border worker, let's say, if you work in Bayonne and you are living in the Basque Country, for instance, or if you work if you are from La Linea and you work in Gibraltar, this kind of situation, like regarding EU borders. Otherwise, just for tourism, so far you cannot enter the country. And everyone who comes, except I think I'm not sure about that. So everyone who comes needs to quarantine for 15 days, for 14 days actually, at home. Only leaving to buy like the basic goods, or if he's a worker considered essential, he can also work, but just work. And that's the situation so far. And these restrictions will be on until the state of emergency ends. We don't know exactly when this could happen. So this is the situation so far for the Spanish borders.
Because we read on social media, that tourists, you are welcome in July or August. This is a wish, or is something that it's possible? Maybe it's risky because we need to balance between money and health.
The Spanish Prime Minister said actually that after the 1st of July, everyone will be welcome to come. But so far, I mean, we don't have any, let's say, legal backup to that. It's just the word of the Prime Minister, which is, of course, important. But we cannot say, oh, it's expected that it will happen at this date, because I think it depends a lot on the health situation. So, yeah, I guess it will be relaxed in the next weeks, like in a way. But you have to consider that at the moment, for instance, I'm from northern Spain, and I'm not allowed to see my parents. I didn't see my parents since January. So it would be also really controversial if they allow Germans to go to their homes in Mallorca, and we are not allowed to go and see our parents in another province. So I don't know how they are gonna actually organize this. Let's see. I mean, how it goes. Yeah, I cannot say this is gonna happen, but well, according to the government, it's gonna happen. So if I was a Polish holiday maker, I mean, why not? I don't know how is the situation. Since all the Spaniards are gonna stay in Spain, or most of them are gonna stay in Spain and don't go abroad, probably it's gonna be full of Spaniards, the beaches again. So let's see how it goes. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Olalla. I don't know if you would like to add something that I didn't ask.
If anyone who is watching us, any colleague from another country wants to know more about the project, wants to know more about Civio, he's very welcome to write to me. My email is my name, olalla@civio.es. And yeah, everyone is very welcome to contact us. We are very happy always to hear from colleagues from other countries. So yeah, here we are.
Thank you so much, Olalla Tuñas from Civio. Thank you for this conversation.
Thank you, Lola, and greetings to Jacob.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Bye.